Living in Tokyo, house hunting. Tokyo is a global metropolis that draws millions of foreign visitors and a growing number of foreign residents as well. Here's what you need to know if you move to Tokyo. Hello, I'm Chris Butler, and welcome to Tokyo Eye 2020, the show that tells you everything you want to know about the city that will host the 2020 Olympics. From tourist destination to a city you can call home. As of 2015, there were 460,000 foreigners living in Tokyo. That's 100,000 more than 10 years ago. So we're going to bring you a series on moving to Tokyo, finding a place to live, getting a job, meeting people, even what to do in case of a disaster. We'll provide you the key information you need as a Tokyoite. Today, we focus on finding a place to live. Some Tokyo Eye 2020 reporters who live in the city will share their experiences with us.
I'm Lisa Wallen, and I first came to Japan from Sweden in 2007. Well, I first moved to Tokyo from Miyazaki, the southern part of Japan, in 2011. And it was such a different experience to move to one of the biggest cities in the world. Even though I knew it was really big, it was still a shock. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anywhere. I didn't know any of the trains or where to go to find anything. So I felt quite lost. I went to stay at a hotel for a couple of days to try to find different places. I really had to look through magazines and online. There was a lot of information online too, but most of it's kind of aimed at tourists. So it's all, again, Shibuya, Harajuku, Roppongi, Tokyo Tower, all of this. And that's great for visiting, but it's not very helpful for when you want to live somewhere. So that was, I think, one of the hardest things in terms of, geography. I didn't know.
Tokyo is a massive city. If you move here, where exactly should you live? Figuring that out is the first hurdle when you go house hunting in Tokyo. Let's look at some high-profile Tokyo districts, what they offer, and what rents are like. Shinjuku has the world's busiest rail hub. 3.5 million people per day pass through it. According to surveys, Shinjuku is the top choice of foreigners living in Tokyo. The great transit access is certainly part of the appeal, and so are all the department stores and other big retailers near the station. Average monthly rent for a studio here is 97,000 yen. For a two-bedroom unit, 224,000 yen. Kichijoji is 15 minutes by train from Shinjuku. In a survey by a well-known magazine, it was named the most desirable residential area in Tokyo for 5 years straight. Around Kichijoji Station, you'll find lots of charming boutiques and hidden cafes. Beyond the retail zone are quiet residential neighborhoods. Average rents in Kichijoji are 65,000 yen per month for a studio and 125,000 yen for a two-bedroom apartment. The Toyosu area is about 20 minutes by train from Tokyo Station. Many of the venues for the 2020 Olympics will be located in this waterfront district. Toyosu has seen a boom in high-rise apartment construction in recent years. The area offers a waterfront landscape, a spacious urban layout, and plenty of retail and leisure facilities. In fall 2016, the famous Tsukiji Wholesale Market will relocate here, raising Toyosu's profile even further. Average monthly rent for a studio in Toyosu runs 97,000 yen. For a two-bedroom, it's 226,000 yen.
I'm Lydia Tiernan, and I came from Canada to Japan in 2002. At the time, I was an English teacher. My company had arranged for an apartment for me, so I had no difficulty finding an apartment. Shortly thereafter, I decided to find an apartment of my own, and that's when I was introduced to the concept of reikin, or key money. This may be a uniquely Japanese concept. It was a bit of a shock. I found it incomprehensible, and it was a bit of a culture shock. really. Deikin, or key money, is a fee that you pay when signing a rental agreement. It's a gift of thanks that you pay to the landlord for renting to you. And I found it completely incomprehensible. I didn't know why I had to pay it. I still don't understand it now. Why would I have to pay more money to the landlord than my rent? So I asked real estate people to try and find me apartments that did not charge the deikin. But at that time, all the apartments that they showed me that did not charge the deikin were completely unappealing to me. So I had a bit of a hard time finding a place to live at that time.
Laurier was dumbfounded by the idea of key money. This custom dates to the 1940s, when young migrants flooded into Tokyo from the provinces. Parents would send a monetary gift in thanks to the landlord.
I'm May Pakdi. I'm from Thailand and I came to Japan in year 1998. I remember my first time going to a real estate agency. I was a student and I had no idea how this system works. And they told me you need a guarantor. And I was so shocked. I mean, what do you mean? I was a student, good school, I have enough money to pay my rent, but they're still, no, you need a guarantor. That was a big shocking. Well, back home in Thailand, they will look at who you are, and if they trust you, they will let you rent an apartment. And you have enough money to pay the rent, then it's okay. But in Japan, it's not only about money, but it's also about knowing someone so well who's Japanese, and he or she will be willing to be your guarantor. That is very important. So being a guarantor has a big responsibility. So it's not a casual question that I can ask my friends, can you be my guarantor? Because it comes with, if something goes wrong, then my friend have to fix it. So that was a big problem for me.
Paying key money and getting a guarantor are two important steps, and you'll need cash up front. When signing a lease, expect to hand over a sum equivalent to 5 or 6 months' rent. Let's break down where this money goes. A deposit is set aside to cover any mess or damage a tenant might leave in the apartment. If the place is in good condition when you move out, you'll get it back. It's usually equal to a month or 2 of rent. The key money that befuddled Laurier is a gift of appreciation to the landlord for renting to you. It is also usually a month or 2 of rent. Unlike the deposit, it will not be returned. The commission is paid to the real estate office handling the leasing. It's limited to the value of 1 month's rent at most. When signing your lease, you will also have to pay the first month's rent and renter's insurance for coverage in case of a disaster. So for a place that's 85,000 yen a month, the total cash you will need up front will probably amount to something between 350,000 and 530,000 yen.
Today, I'm house hunting in an area that's caught my interest lately. Let's go check the area out.
Let's join Lisa as she goes through a typical Tokyo house hunting process. Lisa is visiting Tsukishima, only 15 minutes by train from Tokyo Station. Tsukishima is located on reclaimed land in Tokyo Bay. High-rise apartment buildings give way to an old-fashioned neighborhood of quaint shopping streets and narrow alleyways. The old and new faces of Tokyo mingle here. Lisa heads to a real estate agency that knows about rentals in the area.
どうぞおかけください。
はい、お部屋探しですけど。
はい、賃貸でよろしいですか。
そうですね。
はい。条件の方をお聞かせ願いたいんですけども。
そうですね。まあ1LDK から 2LDK までくらい。
はい。
Here are Lisa's stipulations. The real estate agent searches his listings using her criteria.
今、お調べいたしましたところ、こちらとですね、こちらと、こちらがヒットいたしました。
これちょっといい感じですね。
こちらですね。わかりました。リビング、ダイニング、キッチンが
ここも結構広いですね。
広いですね。で、こちらが洋室ですね。で、階数がですね、40階建ての33階のお部屋になりますので、
高いですね。
一番高いですね。
この物件ですが、
はい、
礼金とか敷金は？
敷金がですね、2ヶ月になります。
なるほど。
はい、で礼金がですね1ヶ月になります。
1ヶ月。はい。はい、
こちらはい、ご案内いたします。少々お待ちください。
The real estate agent takes Lisa to tour the apartment.
こちらがリビングになりますね。
This is a one-bedroom with a 62 square meter floor space. The rent is 178,000 yen per month.
This place is really bright and airy. It seems like you'd get a nice breeze in the morning maybe.
From the unit's 33rd floor balcony, there are expansive views that include the Sumida River and Tokyo Skytree.
ウォークインクローゼットです。
嬉しい。
そうなんですよ。収納力がもうすごいんですよね。
I've always dreamed about having a walk-in closet.
Many foreigners find Japanese homes cramped. A tour allows you to check for yourself that, for example, the ceiling and doorways aren't too low.
Now this is especially for tall people, is whether you can fit in the bath comfortably if you like taking baths. Japanese baths are generally deep and small anyway, but if you can fit comfortably like this, you're pretty okay.
Bear in mind that many Japanese real estate offices are closed on Wednesdays, and many will not have English-speaking staff.
Now, Tokyo is one of the biggest cities in the world with 25 million people living here. Now, where do you live, or how do you find a place to live in a city this big?
I found my place, which is Shimokitazawa.
Yeah.
And I've lived there for a few years now, and I love it because it's so convenient,
Right.
close to Shibuya, Kichijoji, Shinjuku, all easy connections.
Right.
And on top of that, fashionable cafes, second-hand stores, and live venues and theaters galore.
Right.
So for me, it's really great.
Where do you live?
I live in a town called Oshiage, which is famous for the Skytree.
Right. So Oshiage, now it's turned into, I'm sure it's so different from, how many years have you been in Oshiage?
I've been in Oshiage for 8 years now.
8 years, okay. So this is before the Skytree was actually built. So it must have been really different then and now.
It was much more of what they call in Japanese shitamachi at the time when I moved in. It was a very old part, which was very quiet. And then basically as soon as I moved in, about 6 months later, there was a construction site and something kept on getting taller and taller, and my wife and I were wondering, what is this?
Yeah.
And we started reading about it, and we were like, oh my God, there's going to be like a world-famous monument just steps away from our house.
Yeah.
But we were lucky because we had been living there since before the Skytree went up, so I guess the rent must have gone up around us,
Right.
but for ours has been pretty stable, and we're happy about that.
Initially, you need to get information. You need to get real estate information. How would you do that, Lisa?
I guess it depends on what you're looking for, but obviously the internet is the most handy. As long as you have an internet connection and computer, you can find almost anything. And it helps you, find apartments and houses and real estate agents that maybe could help narrow down, the requirements that you need. But I mean, newspapers and magazines for international residents as well. I mean, those are available. So.
Yeah. What about you, Loria?
For me, it was mostly just a process of walking by what they call in Japanese fudoya-san, the real estate agents.
Right.
I just walked by and look in the window, and I had actually quite a bit of luck in finding things just looking in the window, but sometimes you have to go in and look through the papers yourself or ask people to show you papers based on your requirements. And stuff like that.
So, Lisa, when you look for a place, what do you look for specifically?
For me, daylight, is it south-facing? Obviously size, ventilation, noise. So insulation is a big deal, not just in terms of noise insulation, but also heat and cold, for winter and summer.
That was a problem in my last place. That's why I moved.
What was wrong with your last place? Too dark?
No insulation whatsoever.
So you mean it was very cold?
It was very cold in winter, and it was very hot in summer, and it had very large windows. I could hear my neighbor downstairs humming.
Really?
Yeah, so...
Wow, so you have to be hush-hush, huh?
Yes.
I see.
And then also, you know, size is obviously everyone considers that. And I think especially for someone coming from a different country, maybe they don't know the measurement. I mean, usually it's meters squared or something like that. But they measure in jo here, which is the average size of a tatami mat, which is about 180 by 90 centimeters. And so some rooms will only list in jo.
In jos, yeah. Now let's turn our attention to a veteran Tokyo Eye reporter who is a self-described master of moving. He'll cover some key tips on starting your life in Tokyo.
I'm John Daub, and I'm from the United States. I came to Japan in 1998. Well, I've been living in this apartment for about 10 years, and believe it or not, over the course of the 18 years I've been in Japan, I moved 18 times, which seems like a lot, but that also gives me the advantage of becoming sort of a master of moving, knowing where and how to rent apartments. And one of the things that's really important is that you have to build a strong relationship with your community and win over the trust of your landlord. There are times where I'll go into my landlord and I pay my rent monthly by walking into the shop. We sit down and we'll talk for an hour about life advice. I'm living so far away from my home. Maybe it's a 14-hour flight. So making friends with my neighbors and my landlord is an opportunity to make almost like a family here in Japan. Even things about cultural aspects of Japan, how to do greetings to new business clients. Landlord will tell me that, and for me, they've been alive, my landlord, for many, many years and has a lot more experience than me. So for me, I really think that that's been an integral part of me living in Japan and my success here.
How can you ensure your apartment life in Tokyo gets off to a smooth start? We'll learn from John, a master of moving.
On the day you move in, it's customary to greet your neighbors, go around and even greet your landlord. If not on the day, at least within the first week. And it's also customary to bring a small gift. It can be a small cake, cookies, or what I like to bring is this, a hand towel, something that's useful in everyday life.
Let's watch John demonstrate proper etiquette for greeting a new landlord or neighbor.
はい。
こんにちは。
こんにちは。
私603のジョン・ドブです。
はい。
最近引っ越ししました。でつまらないものでだけど。
どうもすいませんどうも。
はじめまして、ジョン・ドブです。隣に引っ越してきました。よろしくお願いします。これどうぞ。
The custom is to say hello to neighbors on either side, and in an apartment, above and below.
Something you might want to consider when you move into a new apartment are your locks. When I moved in, I had them changed. It took about 15 minutes, and it gave me peace of mind because people have been using the same keys for years. You don't know who has them, so definitely something you should consider.
What do you do about utilities like electricity, water, and gas?
So on the day that you move in, the water and the electricity is already on, but you have to contact them to let them know when you moved in. That's when they start to bill you. The gas, on the other hand, is not on, and you have to contact the gas company, and they'll send somebody to show you how to use it. That's really important in case there's an emergency, and to make sure that you're using it properly, because using gas can be dangerous.
It's a good idea to get the gas turned on the same day you move in.
So when you first come to Japan, there are a lot of things that you have to do. Open a bank account, get a cell phone, and having one of these is very handy. It's a hanko, and I got it within the first few days I moved to Japan.
In Japan, ink stamps called hanko are widely used by both individuals and companies as proof of identity for everything from acknowledging receipt of packages to formalizing contracts. A hanko is very useful when renting an apartment.
Although you can sign for a lot of things these days, when you're in Japan, you want to do as the locals, and you definitely should have one of these.
There are lots of hanko shops out there, and you can choose how you want your name styled.
Foreigners coming to Japan for the first time might have a lot of challenges when renting an apartment, but luckily there are companies to make that transition easier.
John visits a real estate agency that has a department serving foreigners. They won't just help you find an apartment. The multilingual staff here will also help with many post-move-in chores, like setting up utilities.
Guarantor?
Yes.
So I'm looking for apartments.
What kind of apartment are you looking for?
I prefer something that doesn't have key money.
Key money? How about this one? This one, you don't have to pay key money.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Agents here are ready to deal with requests like no key money. They understand the foreigner's perspective on living in Tokyo.
Is it possible to see it?
Yes, of course.
Oh, great.
Yeah, here is a room. Please.
Okay.
The room just has been renovated.
It's really clean.
Yes.
This just renovated one-bedroom apartment is 23 square meters and rents for 92,000 yen a month.
So what's this here?
You can put washer here.
Oh, so this is where you wash your clothes and the
Yes.
refrigerator would go
Yes, yes.
in this location.
In Tokyo, where space is at such a premium, not all apartments have space for a washing machine or fridge. Touring the unit lets you see the setup for yourself.
92,000 yen.
This agency, providing real estate services geared towards foreigners, allows you to search for apartments citywide. One problem that often stumps foreign renters is the need for a guarantor, but solutions are appearing. This company provides multilingual services to people who cannot find a Japanese guarantor.
我々が代わりに保証人を引き受けて部屋が円滑に借りれるようにすると。でまたそのオーナーさん管理会社には金銭のリスク以外にも、日本のルールを守ってもらう。日本の不動産や生活習慣のルールを正しく入居して出ていくまでちゃんとフォローしていくっていうのがうちの会社のサービスになります。はい。
The company serves as an intermediary between the property owner and the foreign renter. In the worst-case scenario, the company assumes the obligation to pay the rent. To take advantage of this service, you will need to submit your passport and residence card and undergo a background check. References in your home country will be contacted for verification. How much does the service cost?
賃料の 50%、6万円のお部屋だったら3万円、10万円のお部屋だったら5万円を最初にいただいて、そして毎年1万円を、いただくと。入居している限り1万円を1年間に1回だけいただくっていう、料金システムになってます。はい。
So as you can see, there are a lot of things to consider when renting an apartment in Tokyo. But compared to 18 years ago when I first moved to Japan, the situation has really improved a lot. And that's a great thing for everybody.
And now we have the master of moving himself in the studio. So, John, thanks for the report.
You're welcome.
Do you expect more of these, I would say, real estate services geared to, tailored for foreigners?
Oh, absolutely. They're going to increase rapidly as we approach 2020. These services have a lot of value because people coming to Japan don't have family members or acquaintances. They offer guarantor services, which is great. They also act as a sort of a consulting service. They tell you about the regulations for the local area, the gas and the water, also how to separate your garbage, which is a big deal here in Japan. They also have services in several languages, not just English, Chinese. They even had Nepalese, which was very interesting to see.
I was born and raised in Japan, but I'm a U.S. citizen. I remember I was turned down by this one landlord because I was a foreigner. And I go, excuse me, I'm part Japanese. But then again, their reasoning is, well, you're not local here. You might not pay up on the rent and you might just boom, fly out of the country. And they seem to think of that as one of the big deterrents or one of the reasons why they did not want to have a foreign renter. But do you think that's a problem now? I'm talking, many, many years ago.
Yeah, when I first came to Japan, that was a problem. I think because foreigners coming to Japan don't know the customs and the way people live here, that's a risk.
Yeah.
And the whole idea when you go in to look for an apartment is to reduce as much risk as possible so they accept you.
Yeah.
That means if you speak Japanese, that's definitely a bonus. But having lots of paperwork, having your appearance, maybe coming in with a suit, having a business card, and of course being employed. You can't come to Japan and just live here if you don't have a job.
No.
There are a lot of costs.
Right. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the concept of key money, a lot of the places, especially that cater to foreigners, they don't have key money, which is probably very good news to you, Laurier.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. But then again, as I said, maybe no key money, but maybe the deposit fee might be greater, maybe the rent might be greater. So it's all very relative. So you have to really kind of see if it really fits your situation, I guess.
There are a lot of hidden costs as well, something that I should point out. When you sign the contract, definitely look and make sure that everything is in proper order. It's not so easy because many of the things are in Japanese, which is why these location services are very, very useful. Also, when you move into the apartment, inspect for damages.
Right.
I usually would take a newspaper and hold it up and take pictures of places that might cause, I don't know, take
dispute
things
in the future. Right.
Right, and you want to reduce risk as much as possible.
I see. Do you have any advice, Lisa?
Check how far it is from the station by yourself. They'll say, it's 5 minutes walk from the station or something like that. But, I mean, it depends on, if it rains, is it going to take twice as long because the roads are bad or if there are lots of cars or something like that. For me, I tend to take about half the time that they say it takes to walk to the station just because I walk quite fast. So for me, that's not an issue. And if it is far from the station, will you have a bicycle? Does the apartment building have a place to park the bicycle? Those are some things to consider as well.
Okay. How about you, Laurier? Any advice?
Yeah, you might want to check the last train, the time for the last train, because although the transportation system in Tokyo is really good, it doesn't run 24 hours a day. I once rented a place in a city called Kiyose, which is out in the western suburbs, and it was quite a distance from downtown Tokyo, and if I missed the last train, it was quite inconvenient. You had to take a taxi and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. John, you were very keen on maintaining good relationships with your neighbors when you move into a new location. It's always good to go above, below, to your left and to your right.
Yeah. Right. And I go all the way around because you're meeting people in the elevator all the time. Being a foreigner here, there are, I don't know, people just don't know about your culture. They're very curious, so it's good to introduce yourself to everybody if you have the opportunity to.
Right. Well, thank you very much, John. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Laurier. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Tokyo Eye 2020.